Payette, and I'm here with my colleague Morris Della Costa, and the 2013-14 OHL regular season is upon us. And Morris, we have another long season. The London Knights are going back to the Memorial Cup for a third straight year.
Yeah, we know for a fact it's going to be a long season because they're already guaranteed getting there. The hope is, of course, that they don't pull a Saskatoon and wind up going out in the first round, and then you've got to kill 50 days before the Memorial Cup is actually here. But I don't believe that's really going to happen. I don't think either one of us believe that the Knights are going to go out early in the playoffs. They're pretty strong this year.
Yeah, and I think we discussed 2005. Will they be as good as 2005? I think fans want to know that question, and there's a lot of factors, right, that play into it. I think they're going to have a similar record, maybe 10 losses. There's the shootouts. There's no ties anymore. What do you think?
I think it's unbelievable that we're talking that way, because that 2005 team was probably one of the best junior teams ever put together, and that was the year. You know, but for people who don't remember, that was the year that the NHL had the lockout. The league was much stronger. All the top players, some of the ones that might have made the NHL, all came back to play junior hockey. That was a phenomenal year. I don't think the league's as strong this year. The team is, the London Knights are, but I think their record is going to be good simply because they don't have the kind of competition they had back there. So to me, I think 10 games sounds great. I think that anything less than a Memorial Cup win is probably going to be disappointing, because this team's been there enough times. Certainly anything less than an Ontario Hockey League championship is going to be disappointing. They have to go in the front door. So I think they're just that strong. And I believe that there's going to be a ton of pressure on them to live up to that expectation. So if anything is going to derail them, it's probably going to be all the pressure that's going to be put on them by everyone.
Okay, everyone wants to know who's coming back. Bo Horvat and Max Domi. At first, early on during the summer, I thought Bo Horvat was the one. Now you start to hear that Max Domi might be the guy that make that Phoenix team because of all the circumstances there. What do you think?
Honest to goodness, you know, if you look at someone like Max Domi making the NHL, then certainly Bo Horvat has a chance to make it. You know, Domi's an exquisitely gifted offensive player. He's certainly not ready to take on the responsibility of a physical defensive role that most players in the NHL have to take. And you know, Sam Gagner, we could always harken back to Sam Gagner. His great difficulty was in adjusting to the physical play and the defensive role he had to take on that everybody's expected to take on the NHL. So if Domi sticks in Phoenix, and they might use him as a specialist, you know, then certainly Bo Horvat is going to stick in Vancouver, and that's going to be that may change the course a little bit of how the Knights do this year.
Absolutely, yeah. You know, he's going to compete for a scoring title if he comes back here, and Bo Horvat's your first line center. So we're speaking about the Hunters like to play defensive hockey, right? They focus, it's the defense first. What do you think of this defense? They trade Justin Sefton, they trade a veteran guy, they bring in a bunch of young kids. They're not sure, I'm sure Olli Maatta and Nikita Zadorov will be back, but they're getting longer looks from their NHL teams. What do you think of the defense?
I think that's where the difficulty is going to come. And frankly, I think if you get Zadorov and Maatta back, you're going to be okay. The one thing about the Hunters, especially Mark, and you realize that in 2005, when the tournament was here, it was overkill. I think they're going to do the same this year. I think, you know, that sometimes they're happy to win an Ontario championship and then go into the Memorial Cup. But when the Memorial Cup is here, they're going to go into overdrive. So if they need to grab some defensemen somewhere, they'll go out and grab some defensemen. If they need to grab 2, they'll probably grab 3, because that's just the way they operate. So this is going to be a team that's going to have some changes. I don't think they're satisfied with the team they have. I think they're going to want to get even stronger, especially with the tournament here.
Yeah, I think you can line up the top 5 guys in the league, and the Hunters going to take a run at them, which is going to make this really an interesting season. There'll be a lot of innuendo, and there'll be a lot of trade talk, which is always fun, and just not just at the deadline. I think we're going to hit the ground running into November. Yeah. Do you think they won 24 games in a row last year? Do you think they could do something like that again this year?
I think they probably could, and especially if you're saying they're only going to lose 10 games, they're going to have I think they're going to have a long winning streak in there. But it's going to be a little difficult, because as we mentioned, everybody's going to target them. Everybody's going to play their best game for them. Everyone wants to prove that this is not the team that's going to necessarily win everything. And you know, while the league isn't as strong, they still have some pretty good. They still have some pretty good teams out there that are going to have players that want to make an impression on the scouts that will be following the London Knights significantly. So I think they can be in for a long streak, but I also think they'll get challenges from teams like I think Saginaw's going to be better. I think Plymouth always seems to be okay. The other division should have some strong teams with Barrie, coming back. So there will be some challenges for them.
Yeah, I like the Guelph Storm. If the Guelph Storm get a goalie, they're going to be off to the races. They'll challenge the Knights. Goaltending. Speaking of goaltending, you talked about overkill getting Adam Dennis after he shut them out in that big season 0-0 tie. What do you like about the goaltending? You got Anthony Stolarz coming back from Flyers camp. You got Jake Patterson, undrafted, won the last 3 games of the OHL final against Barrie. Is this goaltending good enough?
I like their depth. I think their depth is really good, but this will be a time when they answer the call. If you remember the year they went into the Memorial Cup and won it, they had McDonald and they had Coleman, and they didn't feel that was good enough. The reality is, I could have played in net for that team with the defense they had. They were getting 15 shots on net a game, and it wasn't the goaltending that won it for them. It was their defense and the forwards, right? Yeah. But I think they'll look very carefully, because there were, towards the end of the season last year and in the Memorial Cup, there was some question about whether Stolarz could handle a heavy load, or whether Patterson was the guy. I think they're good enough, but I can tell you that if there's some questions around November or December, that won't take long for them to pull a trigger on a trade somewhere down the line. But I think they're good enough. I think they have enough depth, and I think if they grab 1 or 2 defensemen, I don't think those goaltenders are going to face 35, 40 shots a game.
No, but the 1 or 2 times they do, they better get the job done.
That's right.
And you know what always surprises me about the Hunters is they're able to win those games when they're at the during World Junior time, or when guys are hurt. Seth Griffith went down, they kept winning. They rarely go on extended losing streaks, and we're going to get anxious if they lose 2 in a row.
I'm not, right? But the fans are going to be. It's going to be one of those that, oh my God, the world's coming to an end because they lost 2 in a row. And the reality is, when you're dealing with young junior players, they have 100 other issues other than hockey sometimes that come up. So they're going to be times when there's going to be some injuries, and you have to stay healthy. Let's face it, to win a championship, you're going to have to stay healthy, and you're going to have to avoid your key players going on dry spells, especially if you don't have a lot of scoring. So I don't think there's any need to panic. I think, quite frankly, this is the best team in the OHL. If anything derails them, to me, it'll be a shock.
Okay. Well, it should be an interesting year. North Bay back in the league. They're the battalion.
I hope you like that trip up there. That'll be good for you.
Well, I miss Brampton because I like going to the Highland Farms grocery store in Mississauga. So I'll miss that trip. Yeah, North Bay in the wintertime. I don't know.
Maybe you can do Owen Sound North Bay. That'll be a heck of a time for you.
Oh yeah, that's like a bobsled run or something like that without a helmet on.
Don't forget the dogs.
Yeah. So so we'll see what happens. It's going to be a long season. It'll all end around June.
One way or the other.
One way or the other.
That's right.
There'll be a bunch of games, and we'll cover them for you. For the London Free Press, for my colleague Morris Elkos, I'm Ryan Payette. We'll see you at the rink.
Okay, that's good.